For our deep dive in the arena this week, we're going to use our lightning round format. I'll go through several specific proposals in Governor Janet Mills' $11.6 billion budget for the next 2 years and ask our analysts to tell me whether these are sound investments or shaky strategies. You ready?
Let's do it.
I'm ready.
Make it happen. First up, Governor Mills is proposing in her final 2-year budget to create a cabinet-level department focused on energy use, costs, and efficiency in Maine. The Maine Department of Energy Resources would be similar to agencies in every other New England state and would be budget neutral, according to the governor. So, Phil, sound investment or shaky strategy?
I think it's a shaky strategy. We're going to create yet another cabinet-level position that will have a life beyond our lifetimes when we have a public advocate, we have a public utilities commission, we have the free market, which is being strangled because electricity costs are high, fuel costs are high. We're subsidizing wind and solar at the expense of the consumer. I think we need to back the government away and let the free market move.
It's not the free market that's being strangled. The free market is the one that's causing all of these high rates, right? I mean, we barely have, there's just these big private entities that are out there charging what they want to charge, and the PUC continues to let them do it. So that's perhaps a debate for another day. But no, this is sound strategy. Every other New England state has a cabinet level position. I think energy costs, you've talked about them ad nauseum, and I agree with you. Energy costs are too high. They're some of the things that actually do stifle businesses, unlike people who argue taxes or something like that. That's something that I think it should rise to the level, especially with climate change, trying to look for sound investments that can help us get to more sustainable
I would follow your lead if the outgoing public advocate, Bill Harwood, was adamant that this net neutrality public policy that's forcing ratepayers to subsidize wind and energy is not in the best interest of the Maine consumer. The politicians aren't listening, the regulators aren't listening. Now we're going to make it a cabinet level position and something's going to change. I don't see it happening.
Well, we need to have a governor who's going to make that happen, and I think that what this does is it escalates it to a level that it needs to be, just like health and human services or transportation. Those are very important issues to a lot of Maine people. Energy is too.
The governor's budget proposal includes a $1 per pack increase in Maine's cigarette tax, which would bring that to $3, as well as commensurate increases on other tobacco products. It also raises the cannabis sales tax from 10% to 14%, as well as a 5.5% tax on streaming services such as Netflix and Spotify. Ethan, sound investment or shaky strategy?
Well, this one to me, I do think it's sound to be able to look for new revenue, to be able to solve the budget. I don't think it's always a good idea to be looking at sales taxes. Those do hit low-income people harder. She should be looking more clearly at income taxes. That's what needs to go up because that gets the tax from the people who need it most. But I will say, in terms of the cigarette tax, we are low. That is a sound part of this because we want to try to discourage people from smoking. Taxes have two purposes. One is to raise revenue, and the other is to try to regulate our economy behavior in a way that reduces costs elsewhere. So that part of it's sound.
To me, this is very shaky policy. If you took the governor's budget when she first came into office and adjusted it for inflation, it would be about $9-something billion. She's at $11 billion, telling us this is an austere time. Yet she's looking for streaming revenue from what people watch, what they smoke, 70 cents on every prescription that you fill, taxing private ambulance companies. This is just a way for her to say, I need more money out of the private sector to feed the growth of government.
Yeah, but it's not to feed the growth of government. It's to try to make sure, and we'll get into some of these, to make sure the investments are made. And look, when I was in the legislature, the annual budget was what, $5.5 billion, $6 billion. So we're talking 15, 20 years later that it's barely more than double. I don't think that that's outrageous growth. Most people's homes are worth well more than double than they were back then. Their incomes are much better. So it's not, I think the size of the budget is never what we should be looking at as much as the investments that it's making. Are they smart or not smart?
And are they delivering results? Are they delivering results that people would say that was well worth my tax dollars?
The governor's budget also includes $25 million to continue funding the governor's free community college program and makes the program permanent by moving it to the state's baseline budget. It had previously been supported with one-time funds on a budget-to-budget basis. Phil, is that sound investment or shaky strategy?
It's another shaky strategy. Budget to budget, I think probably makes sense. To put it permanent in the baseline budget is basically saying here's another government subsidy that's going to be used to, in many instances, deny Maine students the college of their choice. What about the private institutions in Maine, like the University of New England, St. Joseph's College, my alma mater, Husson University? And others who are being disadvantaged by these students who are going into a free system at the expense of private industry.
How does it deny the student? This gives the student the opportunity to go to college if they can't afford it. And so this is one of the most sound investments. If we believe that an educated workforce is an important thing as we move into the next economy, as we recognize that some of the basic skills that you get out of high school are not enough to be able to support your family, providing free community college. You can go to any school you want to go to, and those schools are welcome to provide financial aid, whatever it is. But this makes sure every kid in the state, just like high school, just like middle school, just like elementary school, can get a college education. Very sound.
And Phil, full disclosure, you're on the Husson board, and you've seen the
thank you
impact
for
that it's having as Husson and the other private schools adjust to the fact that a lot of students are going for the free program, which honestly wouldn't surprise anybody.
It's pretty tough to compete with free, right?
But that's your job.
You made a point, Ethan, that I think has been overlooked. You said they're not coming out of high school with those skills that they need. Let's get that basic knowledge, whether it's working with your hands or basic English and math. Let's get that accomplished in high school where we're already paying 55% of education.
You are getting those things solved in high school. And then when you get to a community college, you decide you want to focus on mechanics, or you want to focus on culinary arts, or you want to focus on a liberal arts education. You take it further. You get the basics, but when you come out of high school, you don't have all the skills you need, the critical thinking. You would agree, you need additional education in order to support your family. So let's make sure that anybody has access to that.
Up next, the spending plan includes a number of programmatic changes in the Department of Health and Human Services, including reductions in eligibility for food assistance for non-citizens and reductions in stipends for child care workers. Ethan, is this sound investment or shaky strategy?
This one's shaky. This is unfortunate on the part of the governor. I don't know why anybody is limiting the food security of any Mainer. I don't care what your immigration status is, one way or the other. You're here legally in the state of Maine. You need food. You ought to be able to get food assistance. And child care workers, healthcare workers need to be paid more. So this is, without question, a shaky strategy. Will be bad for our economy and bad for Maine people.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I agree with you on the child services. That's not the place for us to be scrimping on funding. I think if we all could look back several years and say, well, we wanted to be a welcoming state for people who are seeking asylum or in harm's way, who could have thought the amount of money that the public treasury would have to come up with to house and feed and educate and healthcare? We've got to get our arms around this, and this is probably...
But those are good investments, right? I mean, providing healthcare and housing for the workforce, for the kids that are going to our schools, is a good thing, isn't it? I mean, we need, if we didn't have immigrants, our population would be declining dramatically, which would be bad. Agreed?
Which would be great if we had the other problem solved. I don't want to see a homeless veteran out in the streets before someone who's coming into our country who may not be here legally or not.
No immigrant is taking any money from a homeless veteran. If we want to make sure homeless veterans and somebody new who's coming here wants to get the money, we have it. We should just make sure they get it.
Well, that's the point. We don't have it, and we're going to have to make difficult choices.
Well, we do.
Also in this budget, 250 new positions to state government, including new positions at the Maine Department of Safety to address the after-action report published in the wake of the Lewiston mass shooting, positions at the Department of Environmental Protection to assist with PFAS remediation and licensing, and about 28 positions for the judicial branch to deal with their backlog. Phil, this shaky or sound?
Oh my goodness, you're killing me here. we're going to
You say 250 new positions and you start to...
And it's like, we have an austere budget, our economics are changing, and we need to buckle down, but we need 250 new employees. I think in the judicial branch, yeah, we've got a backlog there. There are people who deserve to have their day in court who are being delayed and denied, and we've got to fix that. But if you look at the other areas, the PFAS, the Lewiston shooting, many of those things originated from either action or inaction by government. And now we're saying you need to hire more employees for us to go fix the problems that arguably we may have been part of creating.
Yeah, it may have been part of creating because they didn't have the resources to be able to solve them, right? Some of them, now PFAS, you're right. The government helped create that problem, right? They allowed this to happen. So is the government now supposed to say we're just going to allow it to continue to happen? No, the government should step in and say we have to take responsibility for making sure that we clean this stuff up. Now let's not blame government, right? It's companies that were polluting, but we allowed them to do that. So they should go in and clean it up. Same with Lewiston. I mean, look, this is the kind of investment where you need to make, just like you said, sometimes you got to invest, like in the courts or in these areas. Sometimes you step back. These are good investments.
All right, well, now that we've gone through all the particulars, looking at this $11.6 billion budget overall, in your estimation, Ethan, is it a sound investment or shaky strategy overall?
I mean, overall, I think it's pretty sound. There are areas where I think it's Governor Mills has not made the kind of investments she needs to make, especially around housing. I mean, we just keep talking about how housing is the #1 crisis in this state. And if we are truly committed to building 80,000 units of housing or incentivizing 80,000 units of housing in the next 5 to 10 years, you have to start really laying that groundwork. She's got some extra money for housing in this budget, but that's a particular area. I do think they should be raising wages, et cetera. But if I'm going to point out one thing that makes this shaky, it's really the housing piece.
I think I would describe this as strategic. She knows she has to put together a budget in a relatively short period of time. It has to be balanced by our Constitution. She has transferred it up to the 3rd floor of the State House, where the House and Senate will dance and debate and have press conferences, and bring it back to her at some point at maybe 3 in the morning, late in June, to sign the budget. She knows she's got some vulnerabilities in this, and she's got areas where she can negotiate with legislators.
And it's going to be interesting with the Democrats too, because she came out and in her statement around the budget, she basically was like, I told the legislature not to spend the extra money, but they did, so now we're seeing the problems. Now, you could just insert the name Democrat in that because that's who rules. And I was like, boy, she is. And then a couple of legislators came out and said some problems in the budget, and her spokesperson said, why don't they just go bring it to the Appropriations Committee? We're not interested. I was like, whoa, this tension is deep.
I think that was called a punt up to the 3rd floor of the State House.
Do you think Republicans are going to play on this budget?
I do. I think to the extent that Ryan Fecter wants to be seen as a speaker who was a change agent from the previous leader, he's going to have to work with Republicans. And they've made it clear what their priorities are.
They said no taxes. I mean, they have said, we will not give you one vote on this. You think they're
and maybe no 3 a.m. votes either. They changed the rules on that, right?
Well,
we'll see.
Yeah.
Those 3 a.m. votes were the best, baby.
That's when you see what people are really made of.
Yes.